Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today. Welcome to the ChatGPT podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Each episode, we dive into the latest developments in the exciting field of artificial intelligence, exploring its applications and potential impacts on our daily lives. If you are looking for an innovative and creative community of people using ChatGPT, you need to join our ChatGPT creators community. I'll drop a link in the description to this podcast. We'd love to see you there, where we share tips and tricks of what is working in ChatGPT. It's a lot easier than a podcast, as you can see screenshots, you can share and comment on things that are currently working. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the comment. We'd love to have you in the community. Since its launch, one of the biggest areas that ChatGPT, I believe, can disrupt is in healthcare. And today we're seeing a pretty big step in that direction. Epic, which is one of the biggest healthcare providers and I think hospitals in America, I think it is actually, the biggest, it has the largest share of U.S. acute care hospitals in that market. It has about 33% according to a report. So Epic is a really big hospital healthcare company, and they are integrating GPT-4, and they have a pretty close partnership already with Microsoft that it would seem they're expanding. So today on the podcast, we're going to talk about what they're doing to actually integrate GPT-4 into healthcare, how that's going to change healthcare, what some of the implications are. And I think this is going to be an interesting one. So let's dive into the podcast. First off, I will say that it's been 5 months now, I think, since Microsoft first launched ChatGPT. So what's interesting to know is usually around the 6-month mark after something like this comes out, there is going to be a massive wave of companies that are finally in production, right? There's been a lot of stealth companies that have been developing in stealth. And I know that ChatGPT obviously can be integrated with an API a lot quicker into some SaaS softwares than other things. But that being said, really solid companies, sometimes it does take them a while to get out with some good products. And so I believe we're about to see a really massive wave of these products launching. And the reason why I think that that's relevant is because as we're also, while that's happening, we're also seeing at the same time some of these massive companies, right? One of the biggest hospitals in America is now integrating ChatGPT directly. And it's going to be interesting to see how that affects a lot of these startups and a lot of these SaaS services, if they were essentially building a product that is now not going to be needed because hospitals are directly implementing, or if there's still going to be a place in the market for them, because I know there was a lot of healthcare SaaS companies coming out of ChatGPT. So that's going to be something interesting. That's not just with healthcare, that's with a lot of different areas. And I think it really comes down to if, these companies are building features or fully fledged platforms and products, right? So like if they're just doing like an app that does, it like transcribes notes or summarizes something small for people, it's probably going to get replaced or absorbed into a more, a bigger platform or something that is a lot more robust of a software. So that's going to be interesting. But in any case, Epic is essentially launching this. They're gonna be using a lot of the special stuff that Microsoft has been building into their Azure platform, and apparently they've already begun piloting a lot of different OpenAI services at a few different healthcare locations, including UC San Diego Health, UW Health, and Stanford Healthcare. So a lot of the health systems have started using Microsoft's technologies to essentially automatically draft message responses. That's one thing that they're using it for. They actually said that we work with these organizations to identify a small subset of users who have been given training and context to leverage this feature in production. The users are generally clinical information adjuncts and or clinical leads who see the promise AI has in shaping the future of healthcare and understand the considerations involved in being able to benefit from this technology effectively in these early phases, right? So they're just looking for early adopters, people that see the potential, and then they're using them to kind of test a lot of these features. And once they find something that really works, then they try to scale that out. So as part of this kind of partnership that Epic and Microsoft are doing, Microsoft is also going to bring its natural language queries and interactive data analyst tools to Slicer Dicer, which is Epic's self-service reporting tool. So this is kind of interesting, right? Like Epic already has its own self-reporting tool, and now they're incorporating their own stuff. So it just is one extra barrier to entry of any of these healthcare companies or SaaS companies, getting in with a big company like Epic when they already have their own SaaS tools, and now they're already building out, ChatGPT on top of it. And I mean, I don't think it's very far-fetched to say that Epic could then go take Slicer Dicer and license that out to other hospitals and other healthcare providers. Essentially it's a hospital, but now it's becoming a software company. It's kind of an interesting spin, and I feel like we may see a lot of that in the future, especially when you look at companies that have data sets that they're using to help with those tools. So I don't, obviously, obviously it's going to have a lot of really sensitive information in something like this. So I doubt that Epic's going to be using this, like they're using their, using all of the people that are at their hospital's data to train these tools and then licensing that out. But it's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot of cases, we see with Bloomberg, how they made Bloomberg GPT based off of a lot of their internal data. And, essentially they were a news company. Now they're turning into an AI, more software company. So it's going to be interesting to see what other companies make that sort of pivot and start incorporating software to help, their bottom line increase. So I think this suite of analytics and tools that was essentially designed to help physicians explore their hunches about medical questions. That's what, Epic is currently working on, as well as get answers about the operational efficacy of their hospitals. That's kind of what their software does. And so now integrating ChatGPT is going to help this in a huge way. I think it's going to really just make it more, conversational. While a lot of these physicians are using these tools, which I think is one of the best user experiences you can add to software. If you can make it a lot more integrated and conversational, it's a lot easier to use than, the software of the past, which was a lot of drop downs and buttons and things that are a lot less intuitive. So I think people are going to really appreciate that in healthcare. And at the same time, I think this has a lot of different capabilities. Last month, Nuance, which is owned by Microsoft, also announced that it was integrating GPT-4 into its clinical note-taking tool. So obviously this is another area that healthcare is using this. They're integrating just different tools. Obviously doctors, when you go in, they got to take a ton of notes about you and ask you a bunch of questions. And I think that a lot of this is going to be auto-filled. You say something once and then it's going to fill it in a lot of different places, or it's going to help you come up with different things. Apparently also with Epic and what they're kind of integrating GPT-4 in, it's also to help physicians ask their system they're building about the impact of chronic conditions on their local community using more of natural language queries. It's going to be really interesting to see, how this builds out. People have said that GPT-4 is actually pretty good when it comes to medical information, and it's going to be interesting seeing physicians use this. Especially, at least, it's a physician using it, hopefully just as a help and relying on their own background experience. I think areas you'd want to watch out for is, GPT hallucinating and giving a physician some sort of crazy medical piece of advice. But it would seem that that's less of the area that they're going into and more of just like helping them with a lot of the administrative tasks. But it does say that they're creating features to explore data and making that more conversational for physicians. So that's going to be pretty interesting. And also, they're also using it for, asking it about different conditions and medical things for communities. So I believe that would be an area that they would definitely want to keep a close eye on hallucinations in healthcare. Obviously, it's got a lot of really amazing potential, but you really want to watch out that this thing is being used well, especially when it comes to medical and people's health. I think this is going to be a big area that people are watching into the future. Today's episode is brought to you by Self-Pause, which is an AI life coach that I absolutely love. Self-Pause allows you to go and have a conversation around anything that you're trying to achieve. It helps you set goals. It helps you build positive habits, eliminate limiting beliefs. It's essentially just your personal coach for anything that you're trying to focus on in life. The best AI life coach. You need to check them out. Go download the app. This is something that seriously can change your mindset, and I am a massive believer believer in mindset. I know that if you change your mindset, you can accomplish anything you want to. So go download the Self-Pause app today, iOS and Android. This is something you absolutely need to get. You've been listening to the ChatGPT podcast. Make sure to rate us wherever you listen to your podcasts and have a fantastic week.